many of you managed to make my panel session yesterday, I'll be touching on some very similar themes, albeit with more slides today. Thank you. So I'm Catherine Michelle, CTO of Sigma Systems. I also sit on the TM Forum Executive Committee and recently joined the advisory board for UK 5G, which is advising the government on the rollout and deployment and adoption of 5G in the UK. So what Ernest and I are going to talk about today, in principle and more importantly in practice, what it really takes for traditional service providers to really pivot, to behave, operate, and deliver like digital natives. And so I'll talk about what that looks like in terms of the organization, in terms of the operations, and certainly in terms of the technology. Ernest is then going to be way more interesting and talk about what they're actually doing down at Telstra. Okay. Well, the first slide says everything's moving really fast, clearly just not in the slides. And we all know that. And I think certainly and I think we're all comfortable now with the idea that it very much the status quo is disruption. That we are constantly innovating in the network, we're constantly innovating in system capabilities and service capabilities on top of the network, and certainly a lot of the IoT over-the-top third-party digital natives are innovating outside of the network and to run, of course, on top of whatever service providers can provide them. And so the bottom line mandate is the need, the drive, and the imperative to be able to, on a regular, daily, recurring basis, be able to adopt new business models as a service provider. And so the old status quo of being long development lead times, being solely network engineering and system engineering centric, to interacting with customers in the old human-intensive call center channels is really a thing of the past. And that really is where this notion of pivoting towards digital natives, it needs to start, where digital natives are ruthlessly, pedantically, myopically focused on the product that they want to take to market, because that product is the pinnacle of why and how customers want to engage with them. It's not how great your back-end systems for CRM and billing are. It's not how fantastically seamless necessarily your 5 different types of network technology interop with each other are. It really is about the product that you get into the quote-unquote hands of the customers. And doing that through the channels that customers want to do business in, and increasingly and almost exclusively, all customers want to operate that interaction through digital channels. And so when you look at again, the imperative for service providers pivoting to becoming a digital native in terms of what they ultimately need to focus on, service providers should be looking at themselves as lifestyle companies, which is really about all the myriad types of services that they can bring together, either organically, innately from their own internal innovation, and or partnering with third-party innovators and digital natives, and how they bring that together in a way that, with core and new, improves and makes easier their customers' lives. And they need to do this on a mass scale. And that's why service providers are so well positioned. We often talk about the complexity that holds service providers back. The flip side to that is no one else can deliver that type of mass personalization for consumers the way that service providers can. They've been doing it for decades and they know how to operate at scale. But they need to do that at pace as well. And that is the biggest challenge, is having the mindset and having the operating infrastructure that allows, again, on a daily basis, service providers to be able to adopt whatever new innovation is coming across the network or from a third party. And really focus on how they create and launch that innovation, how they bundle it with core, how they sell it to the customer, and ultimately how immediately and seamlessly they can deliver it. And really this is, I think, one of the most important points that I believe I make when I talk about this is less focus on fixing what isn't broken, i.e. CRM billing, those types of things, more focus on creating a legacy overlay that ultimately allows that constant daily create, sell, deliver of innovation. So, and that is really the digital mindset. And Ernest is going to talk about how Telstra has really started to see what it means to have that digital mindset. And really it starts with this notion of managing your business. Managing what it is you're taking to market and what you're selling customers, because that ultimately informs, influences, and drives whatever digital transformation program you're going to undertake. It starts at the data level, i.e. your catalog and all the specifications that define what you're selling, how you're selling it, who you're selling it to, all the rules and regulations around what can be sold with what and to whom, what the relationship with the technical service side of things are, what the specifications around that, the CFSS to the RFSS. Then it moves into interoperability in terms of how well your systems can talk to each other around your business, i.e. around the things that you're trying to sell into your channels and deliver across your networks. And it's prioritizing that as part of your IT investment. When you talk about digital transformation, it doesn't necessarily need to be about automating everything across your BSS and OSS. It's really about prioritizing, in my opinion, what's most important to your customer. And that's getting the innovation, buying the innovation, and using the innovation, create, sell, deliver. And the infrastructure around that has to be a code-free zone. Because if you're deploying an architecture that ultimately requires every time you want to launch a new set of services or combine it with a core, requires you to code a few lines of logic to render it into your sales channel, and then code some more logic to orchestrate the fulfillment across your core network, your SDN, your third-party IoT device, you've lost out. You're not able to adopt that new business model in an agile fashion. And that's, again, where coming back to data-driven notion of what you're taking to market and the interoperability around getting that into your BSS and OSS. And that's where the infrastructure piece comes along. And this is something that Ernest will talk more about in terms of what they're doing at Telstra. And it starts with the catalog. It starts with defining all the things at the specification level that you take to market and how those specifications need to behave in your systems. But most importantly, it means that you're cutting down, as soon as you start to data drive the processing from a catalog level, you're absolutely starting to reduce the amount of code that you have to create in order to get those specifications into your channels, orchestrated across your activation systems, and certainly switched on in the network. Interoperability is key to this in terms of the API-led interaction between all this data and all the systems and the services that the systems need to execute in order to do something with that data. Excuse me. And ultimately, when we talk about the types of things that we need to be doing once you innovate from the catalog and you create the new specifications, you want to combine those specifications and launch them, you want to be able to do it across the idea of omni-everything and Uber orchestration. And what we mean by that is, again, you don't want to have to code different logic for each channel that you want to sell that innovation in. And certainly you don't want to have to code a different fulfillment engine for any type of network that you're interacting. You need applications that ultimately allow you to deploy one platform and sell through many channels, and as well as orchestrate any type of order with any combination of services across any type of activation network. And I think the fundamentals to all of that is absolutely going back to this idea of defining what it is you do as a business, manage your business, and ultimately deploy the innovation through the different channels. So I'm going to hand it over to Ernest, who's going to talk about pretty much just that and what they're doing at Telstra.
Thank you very much. So I'm sure it's going to be a tough act to follow award-winning Catherine, but I'll give it a go. So a little bit about myself and what we're doing at Telstra. My name's Ernest. I'm the head of product digitisation at Telstra. I joined the digitisation program only about 6 months ago. Prior to that, I was running our enterprise mobile product portfolio, which is about a $3 billion product line. And we talk about the sort of the innovations that are required across that. Telstra has everything from IoT, M2M, through to core mobility and broadband type products. And there's a lot of partnering type activities that are forcing us, on a daily basis to challenge our current business models. So, I thought if we're going to talk about the digital native, I better give you some credentials. What do we know about the digital native? On the left-hand side is something I created and something that my father published about trying to get computers into classrooms. That might be a really good idea back in 1982. On the right-hand side, this is something my son created and launched to a global platform, in a week. Gaming has just changed. Digital natives, is evolving all the time, and the needs and the expectations, of those that are following and using our products and services has radically altered. So the case for change at Telstra, there's a couple of macroeconomic factors, market factors that force at Telstra. We have an NBN program, a National Broadband Network program that is rolling out where we're moving in the fixed data space away from being a network provider to being a retailer on someone else's network, and that's a massive change for us. It's a massive change as well for our network economics. It's much more profitable if you own and run the network than it is if you're buying it off somebody else. There's another huge implication with a fourth mobile entrant entering into the Australian market. TPG is entering, and we know that's going to shake up our highly profitable mobile portfolio as well. So, some macroeconomic things that are forcing us into big digitisation programs. I know there's some other faces here from Telstra, not one but two digitisation programs. We love digitisation at Telstra. So the one I'm talking about is the B2B program, and really focusing on our business customers. What we're seeing here is entrants, disruptive competitive forces, cloud-based technologies. We offer a huge cloud portfolio, several $1 billion of cloud that we buy and sell through partners and manage ourselves through our own data warehouses. We're seeing a convergence, of bundled offers from our competitors where they're putting together very like products of ours and cherry-picking some of our great customers. And there's also further investment in our region, which is basically serving an Asian customer base right across Southeast Asia, people investing heavily in other rival networks that'll compete with ours. So how are we responding to that? It's very similar. It's interesting that Catherine and I put our slides together about an hour ago, and there's a huge amount of alignment in here without a lot of preparation. So it means that we're very much on the same page. Agile, customer-centric product approach, absolutely at the core of everything we're doing, and I'll talk about that as I come through. What does that mean? Differentiated propositions, absolutely key that we begin to innovate over our new services. We're investing in the network and be able to differentiate those in the market in different ways, whether that's through partnering or whether that's through exposing our network services to our customers and partners. We're moving to a global operating model. We have operations, although we're an incumbent Australian operator, we have operations through Europe, Asia. We provide some of the largest backbone networks through Asia as well. So companies like Facebook and Google, when they run their platforms into country, are using our backbone networks to do that across Asia. So, we're moving to a model to support that. Our business customers are no longer Australian business customers. They're global providers that are looking for global solutions, and we're moving our operations model to serve that as well. So what are we doing specifically to design for the digital native? And, I think, we're focused on creating amazing experiences, and at the end of the presentation, I'll give you some detailed examples of, some of those experiences, bring that to life. We're focusing also on the tools that our teams, we have 15,000 staff at Telstra, the tools and the processes that our staff use, if they're not digital, they're not simple, they're not informed, all of the work we do to try and serve our customers really falls down. So we're really focused on improving, the quality of life for our teams as well. Simplifying our business, where we've got multiple ways of doing things, really breaking that down and making sure we've just got one way of designing, building and deploying new products. And again, inspiring our colleagues, there's a bit of a change culture that's going on at Telstra as we move towards our strategic ambition of being a world-class technology company. Moving away from being a telco, but to being a technology company. And for those of you who've been in the room listening to the previous speech from Vonage, it's a very similar theme. They're moving to a place where they need to provide and think more like software companies than they do like network providers. And I think it's very similar to the way we're trying to think about the problem. So, we want to make Telstra the easiest company to work with. For our B2B customers, they have choices in every one of their technology and communication needs. Make it really, really easy to engage with us right from the moment you're talking or inquiring about your products through to the moment that you're buying, or through to the moment that you're inquiring about how things are working in your network. And to underpin that, we need to think about a whole range of different things about how our customers configure and consume our offers and products, how, again, our employees engage with it. We need to think about automation, so there's less sort of manual tasks and swivel chair processes where they still exist. And we need to think about the IT transformation that underpins that as well. I'll talk a little bit about that. I won't delve into that. I've got a few CX and customer experience slides in here, but the customer is really at the heart of our transformation process. And we've gone through each of sort of the key interactions. And Catherine had create, sell, and consume, deliver. We're looking at these things across the various value streams in our business and making sure we really have the right framework to answer the customer's questions. And that requires a new wave of thinking about how we design our systems and how we deliver information to the point that it's used. There's a lot that sits behind this, individual use cases that sit behind this, that drill into all the little activities that go on. We're building out the framework from a customer experience that says, okay, if that's the experience I need at the end of the day, what supporting technology do I need across my stack to drive those experiences? So where to start? So, we started with a product set that, we need to be fairly proposition driven rather than a simple technology offering. So we're going for a solution that encompasses fixed and mobile and IT, and unified comms type services, a really simplified offering, but actually from a network and service delivery perspective, it challenges us across multiple product domains, challenges us across multiple technology domains as well. We're looking for a unique offer to start this process. While we're building the technology, the offers that start to flow into that technology, at least at the beginning, need to provide immediate value to us as a business to help drive the further investments that are coming. And that's, we need it also to be completely extensible. So, many of the things we're doing in the first wave of products are going to lay the foundation for every product that follows on. And I'll talk about the sort of product structure that we've got and systems as well. So the end-to-end flow-through for our modularised products. So some of you may be familiar with some of the other work Telstra is doing here at TM Forum. There's a lot of work happening at the ground level with service module provider, and we've got a whole separate program around Network 2020, as we call it. 2020 is racing up on us very quickly now. It's probably sounded quite futuristic a little while ago, but it's on our doorstep. And they're already delivering some fantastic services that change the way that we used to think about it. And, Catherine mentioned the sort of end-to-end flow-through, an orchestration flow-through. They're moving away from that and providing simple APIs for services. If I want mobile, I can just ask for it. I don't have to configure mobile, and get a really simple service as a result. That's a simple example. Those services are going to bubble up into our product catalogue, and there'll be a modular layer for what those services are and how they can be consumed in a customer-facing way. And then they bubble up again to the product building blocks and eventually the commercial layer that sits on top of that. And this sort of modular architecture drives right across all of the value chains. To give you an idea what they are, concept to market, where we're creating and designing and strategizing about what products, into the purchase to order process, through order to activate. Again, that's going to start to interact back down into the network, and then the request to resolve for any of the sort of customer inquiries. How is my service? Is it working as expected? And then finally, and very importantly, we want to collect some money at the end of the day. So use to cash is the final stream. All of these value streams become catalogue driven, so that they're receiving the data that they need right from the service layer, product and offer layer. So just to put some names against those stacks, we're using Sigma in the catalogue environment. We're using Salesforce to underpin our CRM and order to activate process. Is led by Amdocs, ServiceNow for request to resolve, and Aria as a new billing engine. And what that may prompt a few questions from you is, are you changing your technologies again? We seem to change technologies quite often at Telstra. Some of these parts of are already exist in our ecosystem. Some of them are new. Some of them are being developed, and as Catherine said, overlaid with a new way of driving some legacy systems as well, so that the investments that have been made in the past are really being leveraged into the future. Oh, it's got to build. Great. To bring it a bit to life, when I think about the very first offer that we're bringing to market, it's an offer called Connected Workplace. Some of the key things we're driving in the product stream are all about reuse, creating that fundamental source of truth across the organisation for what are those modular building blocks. We've begun this concept of changing the role of the product manager as well, and moving away from being either a network-facing product engineer or a commercial-facing marketeer to really become what we call product modular owners. And the product modules actually show up here in the catalogue. You own a module called Access or Telstra Fibre or NBN or any one of these sort of components. You product manage that thing and you life cycle that thing. And so rather than the actual offer in the market, you're down at the component level. We're changing the way our teams think about what they need to think about. And these modules encapsulate all of the information that's needed about that product, from the commercial layer to the product domain layer, right down into the service layer. So, it's a bit of a mindset change for us, and it's a, change management around the organisation, around how we'll design and build our products. But that's happening at the same time as we bring more and more products through this process. So I did say I would talk a little bit about sort of the final experiences, and I'll snapshot here with a couple of experiences that sort of bring to life what we're trying to achieve. So on the left-hand side, is a simple, where is my order screen? Now, typically, traditionally at Telstra, you order it and then it may or may not show up at some point later on. In a digital age, we're really focused on informing our customers about where their orders are in our systems. So we've created 5 stages, from confirmed, delivered, finalising, ready for use, and billing. So they understand when they call us where their order is without calling us, hopefully, and they can track their own orders through our systems. And they can also start to make decisions, about that. So, if your fixed broadband order is delayed, would you like a mobile broadband router to drive your business, in the interim, so that you don't get your business, so you can get your business up and running in the interim. So, that to provide that kind of digital experience requires the kind of re-engineering that I've talked about earlier in the presentation. We have to deliver up a wealth of information right up into the customer layer and the customer portals to make sure that customers can see that kind of data as they come in. Now, on the right-hand side, you'll see what looks like a Google Maps sort of slide, and deliberately so, this idea of engaging with us in a way that you're familiar with rather than the way we think about our network. Put it on a map, show it, with pins and graphics that you're familiar with. It's very deliberate and tested really well with our customer-focused research that the customers understand what how they think about their business. They can name their businesses, what their sites, what they'd like to call them, rather than we call it N1, N2, N3. They can call it, Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, for example. They can see in real time what we can see in the background, and it's in their terms. So if one of our network elements, and this happened recently, we got a lightning strike that took out a particular part of the mobile network, and it took out most of the eastern seaboard. It's not supposed to do that. There's a lot of redundancy, so that didn't work. But the ability for customers to come in and understand, am I impacted by this? When will it be resolved? How will it be resolved? Without us having to call every one of them, is a massive mindset shift for us, and is helping to drive a much higher customer satisfactions, for our customers going through those processes. Last slide, and then I'll hand open to questions. So again, we're really focused, in each of these streams, from sort of the modular design, the responsiveness that we'll be able to do, over this once we're able to iterate over that architecture. We're changing our mentality around how we deliver these things. We've moved from, 3 quarterly sort of delivery cycles to really agile. Every 3 weeks we can drop a new Salesforce updates in. Every day we can drop product updates in. So that's, mindset change for us in terms of our ability to change and influence the in-market propositions. And then, order to activate total digitalisation there, making sure all the information coming through. It's kind of 101 in that, you get garbage in, you get garbage out in the ordering process, but fixing the information with customers, ensuring we've got the right addresses, names, that we can provide the service we're promising the customer before we commit to providing that. That whole process drives out a lot of cost for us and a lot higher customer satisfaction in the long run.